totally new presentation software today called Prezi. You should try it out as well. And it's going to be super cool, this presentation that we have here on Buchi Emecheta. Buchi Emecheta is a very famous Nigerian author who passed away in 2017. She was born in 1944. As usual, this is Dr. Kalyani Vallath presenting to you a super awesome presentation on Buchi Emecheta with the assistance of Indusi. Indu is my awesome research assistant. Now, look at a map of Nigeria. It's a tiny country in the big continent of Africa. This is Nigeria. And we have a little place here, which is the place where the story is taking place, the Igbo land. So let's discuss more about Nigeria first. Nigeria is a land of many renowned African writers, and it's a sovereign country in West Africa. The country has over 500 languages. Oh my God! 500 languages, mostly tribal, and more than 1,000 dialects and many ethnic groups. It is the sixth largest ethnic groups. The six largest ethnic groups in Nigeria are the Hausa and Fulani in the north, the Igbo in the southeast, and the Yoruba. They predominate in the southwest, and the Tiv people of north central Nigeria, and the Efik Ibibio. See, I did not check out all the Nigerian pronunciations. I am just pronouncing in a neutral manner most of the time. When Indian words are mispronounced by Westerners and other people in the world, I think we have come to accept that the native speaker's dialect and pronunciation is not really important anymore. So, Efik Ibibio is what I'm saying, but that might not be their pronunciation. Anyway, I will not be able to pronounce like them even if I try. The eastern part of Nigeria is the home of Igbos, the community, who are mostly Christians like Buchi Emecheta. There are also Muslims. In some of the novels of Emecheta, you encounter Muslim characters. Take a look at the artistic traditions of Nigeria. Nigeria, like other African countries and countries in Asia also, has distinct traditions and culture. Nigeria has a rich artistic heritage with both traditional and contemporary art forms. You have traditional art forms as well as modern contemporary art forms. Ikpe masks and Ikenga, or personal shrines from the Igbo in eastern Nigeria, and Ibeji, or sculptures, twin sculptures from the Yoruba tradition. So Igbo and Yoruba are the predominant traditions. These are just three examples of the art produced in pre-colonial Nigeria. Most of these traditional forms were very predominant in the pre-colonial period. In the pre-colonial period also minor art forms will be there. So these are some of the important art forms. You can look up in the internet, in Google Images, in YouTube. You will see their dances, their pictures, their art forms, their sculptures. Music and dance are fundamental to Nigerian culture, and each ethnic group has its own practices. Igbo land accommodates many festivities and cultural performances. Many festivities and cultural performances take place in Igbo land. Most prominently, the masquerades and the new yam festivals. Yam is a root that they eat and cultivate. And there are many religious festivals and rituals associated with it. You come across all that in Things Fall Apart as well, and other novels as well. Now a little bit on the culture of Nigeria. Establishments serving alcoholic beverages are found everywhere. Drinking alcohol is a very common practice of their culture. And Islamic laws, however, forbid them. Nigeria is home to many ethnic groups, one of the most important of which is the Igbo people of southeast Nigeria. We have said that before. Igbo traditionally have been farmers. the Igbo people have been farmers. They do farming to earn their livelihood. And the important cultivation was in yam, cassava. Cassava is our tapioca, another root, and taro. Igbo land's traditional religion is based on the belief that there is one creator God who is also called Chineke or Chukwu. There are also personal deities, like it is there in Hinduism also. There is one creator or God, but there are also personal deities. You come across them all the time in these novels as well. Traditional Nigerian life is heavily influenced by mythological traditions, which are often depicted in literature. Many mythological elements and oral culture elements are found in Nigerian novels, even of the modern times, of contemporary times. What are their conceptions of life and death? Christian and Muslim Nigerians both believe that after death, a person's soul is liberated. And there is a trial by God before hopefully going on to heaven. Many traditional religions, especially those of the Eastern tribes, believe in reincarnation. They believe that the dead will be reborn as a member of his or her mother's or sister's family. That's a very common belief. You can see that in many novels by Buchi Emecheta as well. The dead is reborn. The return of the dead people in the birth of the new children. That is a very common practice that you see in these novels of Buchi Emecheta as well. So, did you follow that much? Now, we are going to take a look at two of the artistic traditions of the Igbo people quickly. This is an Igbo sculpture. You can see the oneness of nature. You can see man, woman, birds, leopards, snakes, all together. And this is a dance. Wow, look at their gear, the headgear. What are they wearing on their legs? The anklets. It's pretty. Their clothes. Now, what are the conceptions of age and gender among the Igbo people? Age is respected in Nigeria. You have to respect your elders. Certain tribes expect a female to kneel on the floor or bow to greet an elder. We do that in India also, touch elder people's feet. While males are expected to prostrate, that means just fall on the floor in front of the elder man on your belly, lie on your belly, squat, or bow completely to the ground. Wow. The Nuaboy system of apprenticeship is important among Nigeria's Igbo people. The young people have to be apprenticed. A young boy or man moves away from his family home with a matured, well-off relative or family friend. A young man does not stay with his family. He moves away with a family friend, usually an identified business person, for training. During this training, the apprentice is entrusted with various responsibilities and they are exposed to the world of business transactions. These apprentices are exposed to the world and he is exposed, it should be. At the end of his training, he is given a sum to start a business with and support himself and his family. Most ethnic groups traditionally accept polygamy. A man can have many wives. That is traditionally accepted. Some Nigerians see this as a divisive factor in the family. Some Nigerians do not support polygamy, while others see it as a unifying agent, creating a built-in support system that enables wives to manage as a team. Because what is important there is not love and fidelity and man-woman relationship, but the family. Virginity is highly valued in the Igbo culture. You lose your virginity, that means it's a shame on the entire community. So that's a little bit on Nigeria. Now, let's talk about Buchi Emecheta. You can see a picture of Buchi Emecheta here, 1944 to 2017. Florence, Buchi Emecheta, that's her full name. Nigerian born Igbo British novelist. She lived in Britain. She had followed her husband there and eventually left him also. She wrote plays, autobiographies, as well as children's fiction. More than 20 books and novels. Apart from novels, apart from being a novelist, she also wrote plays. I have not discussed any of these in detail. I've just looked at the novels here in the presentation. What is the main theme of her books? She presented the migration that resulted when colonies gained their independence following the Second World War. People from the colonies or erstwhile colonies began to move to Britain. That is what she also did. Buchi Emecheta also did that. And she talked about this immigration and the consequence of the immigration on these people. As a woman and writer, Buchi Emecheta overcame barriers to education. She went to school and got a degree and then eventually a PhD in sociology. And she began to write. Her writings epitomized female independence. All her novels are about the assertion of female independence, but you can't call them mainstream feminist novels. They have an African or an African British version of feminism. About Emecheta's life and education. She was born to Igbo parents, married at age 16. You can see that some of the characters in her novels are also married very young like that. She emigrated with her husband from Nigeria to London in 1962. And her marriage was unhappy. Her unhappy marriage is depicted in her autobiographical works. Many of her novels are autobiographical, especially The Second Class Citizen is based on her own life. She worked as a librarian and became a student at London University in 1970. In Second Class Citizen also, the same thing happens. Like the protagonist of the novel Second Class Citizen, Buchi Emecheta also worked as a librarian. She began writing about her experience of Black British life in a regular column in the New Statesman magazine. Her husband was intolerant of her writing. He thought that her writing, which exposed their life, will bring shame upon the family. And he burned the manuscript of her first novel, The Bride Price. And she had to rewrite it. And the second time she wrote it, she gave a new ending to it. A new story she wrote. A new ending to the story she wrote. She earned a BSc Honours degree in sociology in 1972 from the University of London. Worked as a community worker in Camden in North London between 76 and 78. In the 1970s and 80s, she lectured in various universities in the USA, the UK and Nigeria. She traveled and started lecturing. Can you believe that? She struggled so much at first. Then she even ran a publishing company with her son in London and lived there till her death. What are her major novels? In the Ditch, Second Class Citizen, The Bride Price, The Slave Girl, The Joys of Motherhood. Her first novel, published novel, is In the Ditch. But The Bride Price was her first written novel. It was the third published novel. She has written children's books, minor novels. All of these I'll talk about. Destination Biafra, The Rape of Shavi, Gwendolyn, Kahinde, and The New Tribe. She has written a television play, A Kind of Marriage, and an autobiography, Head Above Water. Now, these are the major novels: In the Ditch, Second Class Citizen, The Bride Price, The Slave Girl, and Joys of Motherhood. These three novels are together called Africa Trilogy. The Bride Price, The Slave Girl, and The Joys of Motherhood, depicting three strong women in Nigeria. These are in London. They are set in the UK. Now, a quick look at the features of Buchi Emecheta's novels. Emecheta's novels deal largely with the difficult and unequal role of women in both immigrant and African societies. In African societies, men dominate over women. In immigrant societies, that means when the Africans emigrate to Britain or the USA, etc., the African men still dominate over the women. The white people also dominate over the Africans. So there is double marginalization. So Emecheta's novels talk about the difficult and unequal role of women in both immigrant and African societies. And these novels explore the tensions between tradition and modernity. Many of these women, especially those in the UK, the characters, they embrace the good aspects of modernity. The novels of Emecheta are based on her own experiences largely. Most of the novels have autobiographical elements. As both a single parent, because she left her husband. She had 5 children, and like in Second Class Citizen, she left her husband and brought up her 5 children. She was a single parent and a black woman living in Britain. These struggles she depicted in her novels. Her novels document the experiences of the modern African woman and chronicle their struggle for equality in a male-dominated world. How they struggle for equality. They focus on sexual politics and racial prejudice. The aspects of femininity, childbearing, sexuality, all these are discussed, as well as racial prejudices. The 3 major themes of Emecheta's novels are the quest for equal treatment, women seeking equality, women seeking to gain self-confidence and dignity as a woman. They begin to do things on their own, they gain self-confidence, and also they assert their dignity. So, these are the major novels. We are going to take a deeper look at all these novels now. Which is the first of these novels? In the Ditch. So here is an overview of In the Ditch. In the Ditch was published in 1972. You can see the book cover here. It is her first published novel and it is semi-autobiographical. It first appeared in a series of articles published in the New Statesman. I told you that before. The New Statesman is where she published her first novel serially. It first appeared as a series of articles. And the sequel to In the Ditch is called Second Class Citizen. That came 2 years later, 1974. Chronologically, the events of Second Class Citizen happened first. The events of Second Class Citizen happened first. After that, events of In the Ditch happen. But publication was the other way. The novel is about Emecheta's own descent into the ditch. Ditch means hole, muddy hole. It is about Emecheta's own descent into the ditch of degrading life under the welfare scheme in UK. For poor people and immigrants, there is a welfare scheme. That means slum houses are built for them and they have to stay there and depend on the government. They cannot work or do anything else. They cannot even bring up their own children. The government purports to take care of them. Eventually, what the government does is reduce these immigrants and poor people to a dysfunctionality. The government, by taking care of them, denies them a fulfilling life. They are capable people, they are able to work, but the government will not let them work. Because only if they do not work and if they remain paupers, only then the government will give them money. So, In the Ditch is a criticism of the welfare scheme and the dysfunctionality of capable people that results from the welfare scheme. Let us take a deeper look at this novel. It is the story of the adventures of Ada, A-D-A-H. Ada is separated from her husband and she is forced to live in a housing estate, working as a civil service librarian. Civil service does not mean IAS. Civil service means she is not a proper librarian with a library science degree. She is doing it as a service, that kind of librarian. That means her pay is also not that great. So she's working as a civil service librarian at the British Museum to support her 5 children. Her children are very small, 4 months to 8 years old. She's just left her husband. This is what happened to Emecheta also. She also left her husband with her 5 children. And Ada is the author's fictional alter ego. She is like the author. She is proud and ambitious and determined to retain her independence. What she wants is to retain her independence. She does not want to depend on anybody. But it is not possible. It is kind of impossible for an immigrant woman like that to fully retain her independence. That is what the novel shows. Ada does not have enough money to make ends meet. She realizes that she is doubly discriminated as a single mother and a black woman. This is all Emecheta's own experience. And the social workers decide that she cannot have a daytime job. She cannot work because she's already taking evening classes on sociology. Ironically, it is sociology that she is studying. Sociologically, she is the most backward. She has the most backward position. And she is studying the very same sociology or society that oppresses her. And she has also children to look after. So the social workers, who are the arms of the government, they are controlling her. They are denying her the right to work. So Ada at first is with the landlord. She stays in a landlord's room. Her landlord is also a Nigerian like Ada. And the landlord is such a uncivil and rude man. He is so affronted and angry with her that he takes to practicing juju. Juju is like black magic. He practices juju in an attempt to scare her out of the dirty house. Already the house that she is living in is very dirty, infested with cockroaches and squalid. From that house, he wants to drive her out with her children. She's not scared. She's not scared of juju or the landlord. Juju mattered to her at home in Nigeria, all right. But she feels safe enough ignoring it here in England. Remember, In the Ditch and Second Class Citizen happen in England. The other 3 are the African novels. She then opts for a lesser evil. She decides to leave the landlord and she chooses to live in the welfare scheme housing. She chooses the prison-like existence of welfare living in the dirty pussycat mansions. That is the name of the building where she is put up. But she has to be a pauper. She should not have any money in order to qualify for welfare. So she must give up her job. Ada is now more independent because there is no landlord breathing down her neck. She is now more independent, but she and her children are forced to join the ranks of the problem families in that slum. The mainstream white community considers them problem families. And she and her children are one of the problem families now. Their only hope of retaining sanity lies in the ability to hold on to the good spirits and their aspirations for a better and more creative life. Their aspirations for a better and more creative life they are holding on to, and they are remaining sane without losing their sanity. This is how the trials and tribulations, the sufferings of Ada is depicted. But Ada remains independent in spirit till the very end. That is very noteworthy. What is juju? Juju is a spiritual belief system of the Igbos, incorporating objects such as amulets and spells used in religious practice as part of witchcraft in West Africa, especially the people of Nigeria. Look at all the things that they practice black magic on. Are you scared? I'm scared. Now, what are the major themes and concerns in this novel, which is the novel we are talking about? Do you remember? In the Ditch. Oh, stressful poverty in an unsympathetic society. That is a very major theme. Ada and her children suffer from poverty, stressful poverty, that oppresses them and diminishes their productivity. And the ambivalence of the welfare system. Many poor people need the welfare, but the welfare is also crippling the poor people. Even as it helps people, it reduces intelligent, healthy, productive people to a dysfunctional dependency. And the novel talks about how Ada learns to survive among the ditch dwellers. They are called the ditch dwellers, the people who live in the welfare housing. So that was the overview of In the Ditch. I hope you enjoyed it. Hey, don't switch off the device and go. We are not done yet. This is only the first novel. Now we have to talk about its sequel, which is that? Second Class Citizen. Are you ready to dive into Second Class Citizen? Ding, 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 ding. Second Class Citizen overview. 1974 novel. You can see the cover page here. You can see a mother and 5 children. It was first published in London, and the story happens before the story of In the Ditch. A story of overcoming struggles and of contemporary African life. How Ada leaves her husband with her 5 children. That is where the story ends. Ada Ofili is the protagonist, a woman from the Igbo tribe. She moves to England to live with her husband, Francis Obi. She feels rejected in the British society. She's ignored by her husband. And she is forced to face life as a second-class citizen in Britain. That is the overview in a nutshell. I will tell you the story in detail. Like Buchi Emecheta herself, Ada was born in Lagos in Nigeria during the Second World War. And when she's 8 years old, Ada dreams of going to school, but she can't because she is not a boy. Probably this is all about Buchi Emecheta. Emecheta was also born in Lagos during the Second World War, 1944. And she struggled to get schooling. One day her father disappears. Then her family is separated. And she's allowed to study because it might fetch a higher bride price. In Africa, in Nigeria, the men buy their wives by paying bride price or money and gifts, goods. So the wife is like the possession of the husband. So wife means bride price. Daughter means bride price you will get. So she's allowed to study with the hope that she will get a higher bride price. She values her independence all along, like Buchi Emecheta. She also values her career. There are many people who come to buy her, but she marries a poor student, Francis Obi, instead. This is in a nutshell. I'll go into the details. Soon she has 1 child and then 2, and she works as a librarian. Her mother had remarried after her father's disappearance, and she is thrown out from her house when she marries this poor student. Then she has an ever-growing family. She starts working as a librarian. Her dream gets fulfilled when Francis goes to the UK, and she is eventually able to join him there. Francis is now in the UK, and she's able to join him there. And she thinks that she's going to have a great life now, because that was her dream, to go and live in the UK. So she sails to London with her 2 children. And her dreams were not completely fulfilled. There are complications. She gives birth to a 3rd child, and things change for the worse. They have more children. Francis starts to ignore her, and he starts using her money that she receives from her work for his own personal advancement. He does not appreciate Ada. He does not care for her. Ada comes to realize that Francis is not the man of her dreams. Meanwhile, Francis has been telling Ada that in England they are second-class citizens. They have to live under state care as second-class citizens and even let the state take care of their children. Ada cannot accept this. She rejects the notion of being a second-class citizen. She wants to live like anybody else, like the white people. She wants to take care of her own children, which in England at that time only white women would do. And Ada begins to assert herself. When their son Victor falls ill, Ada gets the courage to approach the social worker, and she insists to the children's social worker that the children should be moved from their daytime foster home while she is going to work. While Ada goes to work, the children are put in a daytime foster home. And they are not taking care of the children, the foster home people. So Ada insists that they should be moved to a nursery instead. The children should be moved to a nursery. And it happens. And when Victor falls ill, she even gets a doctor. A Chinese doctor comes to visit Victor at home. Usually black children or black families do not get home visits from doctors. But Ada achieves that also. Ada realizes that Francis was wrong. And she proves that it is possible for second-class citizens to get the services that first-class citizens or the white people get. Second-class citizens can fight for their rights. When they raise their voices, Britain will give them also the same services. She proves it is not so bad. So your inferiority is something that you bring upon yourself. That is what she proves. You don't have to be inferior. You have a choice. She asserts that choice, Ada. Because Francis does not respect her and her dreams. Francis has been scoffing her desire to be a writer, and he also destroys her first manuscript. Ada's first manuscript he destroys, like Buchi Emecheta's first manuscript was destroyed. Which is that first manuscript, The Bride Price, which is the next novel. So Ada takes her 5 children and leaves Francis. That is where the second part of the story of Ada begins, which is the novel In the Ditch. So that is the novel Second Class Citizen. What are the major themes and concerns? Independence, ambition, and assertion of the woman. A woman can be independent. She can be ambitious. She can assert her rights. Ada proves it. Double marginalization black women undergo. Black women are marginalized by their own men, both in the immigrant communities as well as in Africa. That you can see in the next 3 novels, the African trilogy. And they're also oppressed by the whites. Second class position in the society is a matter of choice. It can be changed. You don't have to remain inferior. She shows that. Coming of age and maturation. That is also a theme. Ada, coming of age and asserting herself, exerting her independence. Cultural differences between Nigeria and Britain. The Nigerian culture vis-a-vis British culture. Poverty and trauma. You can apply the principles of trauma studies here. Poverty and trauma and suffering is a major theme. So that is the overview of Second Class Citizen. Now we go on to the African trilogy. The Bride Price, The Slave Girl, and Buchi Emecheta's magnum opus is The Joys of Motherhood. Are you ready? The Bride Price overview. The Bride Price came in 1976. 2 years difference till now. 1972 first novel, 74 second novel, 76 The Bride Price. Remember, it was the first written novel, but Buchi Emecheta's husband burned the manuscript. It concerns the problem of women in colonial and post-colonial Nigeria. It was her first book, but she had to rewrite it after her husband burned the first version manuscript. In the second version of the manuscript, she changed the ending. The story presents the clash between traditional customs of a small Igbo village of Igbo people in Nigeria and clash between the traditional customs and the ever-increasing influence of Africa's European colonizers, as seen through the eyes of a young girl. A young girl is caught between the traditional customs and the influence of the colonizers. Are you following me, everyone? Okay. Emecheta uses the practice of bride price to literally as well as symbolically represent women's submission to men. Men use women, turn them into commodities, submit them to their power in African culture. As a symbol of this submission, she uses the term bride price. Bride price is like dowry, but it is what a man pays for the woman. The groom has to pay a prearranged sum to the bride's parents or close kin to be eligible to marry the girl. That means there will be a father or brother who owns the girl originally. He has to be given bride price by the bridegroom. And if bride price is not given or bride price is not accepted, it will bring ill luck. She will not have children, she will die in childbirth, and things like that will happen. That is the traditional belief, which oppresses women a great deal. You can see that in these novels. This is a picture of a man bringing bride price. This is yam and all sorts of goodies in gifts. In the 1940s, that is when the story is happening, in the Odia family in Lagos, remember that is where Emecheta also was born, Ibo Akuna and her brother Nando, they are living there. Their father Ezekiel has been ailing. He has been suffering from some disease, but he never told the family about it. One day he says he's going to the hospital for a few hours, but after a few weeks he dies. At that time their mother Ma Blackie was in the native village of Ibuza. That is also Buchi Emecheta's own native village. Ma Blackie had gone to their native village. Why? To perform fertility rites. She had gone there so that she can perform the rites and give another child to Ezekiel. Because having more and more children is considered very important and essential by these African women of traditional communities. So Ma Blackie comes back when Ezekiel dies, takes the children with her. She gets married to Ezekiel's brother. This is commonly happening all the time. In second-class citizen also. When husband dies, the wife is married to husband's brother. And when a man dies, his wives become the possession of or the wives of his brother. So she takes the children with her and educate them. She has money, and with that money she gives them education. And they are better educated than other children there. And she has married Ezekiel's brother Okonkwo. Okonkwo is also the name of the protagonist in Things Fall Apart. Akuna. Akuna is the girl, Ibo Akuna. She grows up into a thin, quiet, pretty girl. Educated also, remember? Okonkwo, her stepfather, is ambitious of being a chief, for which he needs money and possessions, wealth. So he expects a high bride price for her. He hopes that Akuna will bring a high bride price, which he can use for his own advancement. But Akuna does not want any of her suitors. Many eligible people come, even before she starts menstruating. But Akuna is secretly in love with her teacher, Chike Ofulu. Chike Ofulu is actually from a prosperous family, but that family is a very low caste family. They are Osu. Osu means descendants of slaves. They are rich, but they are Osu. In those days, these Osus were educated by the missionaries. They were converted to Christianity and they were educated by the missionaries, so they got jobs and they made money. They were prosperous. He got good education, this man Chike. And Akuna and Chike are in love. Then what happens? Akuna starts to menstruate one day. That means she's ready for marriage. But she tries to hide it. In the first month, in the first menstrual cycle, she hides her menstruation to avoid conflict. Because as soon as the people come to know that she's menstruating, there will be fight over her marriage. But the next month, she can't hide it from her cousins. And when it becomes known to everyone that she is old enough, Okonkwo gets many offers from suitors. At that time, Akuna comes to know that she has passed her school exam. What does that mean? It is like menstruation. She's again coming of age. That means she can now become a teacher and earn her own money. And in those days, she was practicing some dance with some of her friends when she is kidnapped by Okoboshi, an arrogant man with a limp from the neighboring village. Okoboshi kidnaps her and takes her away. And their wedding is going to happen. On their wedding night, Akuna does not want Okoboshi to touch her. So Akuna lies to Okoboshi. Are you following me? Akuna lies to Okoboshi that she had slept with Chike. Chike is the teacher whom she was in love with. She says she is not a virgin. Remember, it is very important in Igbo society that virginity is preserved. So she lies that she is not a virgin and Okoboshi will not touch her. The next day, she elopes with Chike. At that time, the news of her disgrace has spread. Chike helps her. With the help of her brother, Chike takes her away to Ughelli. Ughelli is where he works. There, Akuna and Chike start a life together. But she is feeling very guilty because her bride price is unpaid. She knows that if bride price is not given, it will bring her bad luck. She might die in childbirth. That is the meaning she knows. Chike's father is wealthy, remember. Chike is an Osu and his father is prosperous. He makes increasingly generous offers of bride price. To whom? To Okonkwo, the stepfather. But Okonkwo is furious because Akuna ran away with Chike and he will not accept it. Not accepting bride price is a very good punishment. So he does not accept it. What does he do? He also divorces Ma Blackie. Oh, he goes to the extreme of torturing a doll made in Akuna's likeness. He believes in all that black magic. Very superstitious. All these novels, these 3 African novels are steeped in African superstitions and religious rituals. Akuna is pregnant and sick. She dies in hospital during childbirth. That was the prediction. She knew it might happen and it happens. But before she dies, she says only death will win her freedom. What does that mean? A woman, even if she gets education, even if she elopes with her lover, even if she gets a job, there is no freedom for a woman. She will be caught somewhere or the other. She has to die. So in the first version of the novel, she just lived happily with Chike. But Buchi Emecheta said, I know that is not the good ending of the novel. The realistic ending would be to get Akuna to die. Because the situation of the society is so sad. It is not easy for a woman to rebel and survive. And when she dies, Chike christens the baby Joy. The baby is given the name Joy. Let us take a look at the major themes and concerns of the bride price. Of course, male domination and gender discrimination are very important themes. How men rule over women. How men and women have an unequal relationship and how there is discrimination of the women. A very important theme is the father's role and power in the family. Okonkwo's power as stepfather. The responsibilities of the father. When Akuna's father, real biological father, dies, it is like she has no more protection. She won't be protected. So a father's role is a very important theme. Women and their connection with wealth. Bride price. Even the title is bride price. Women are like a commodity. Women are manipulated by this attachment to wealth. There is a caste system here based on the former practice of slavery, the Osu family, the descendants of slaves. Akuna's situation parallels the exclusion of the Ofulu family. The Ofulus are slaves. Chike's family is a family of slaves, ex-slaves. They are excluded from the society. Akuna's situation is also similar. Akuna is also being a woman and also an unconventional woman. She is excluded from the society. She is like an outcast and she is like an Osu. And this novel, like many of the other novels, are partly a criticism of traditional Nigerian society. There is also the clash of traditional Igbo customs with modernity. Igbo is the place, Igbo is the people. Did you follow? So that was the... another theme is the city versus the country. Values of the city versus values of the country. Values of Lagos versus the values of Ibuza. Ibuza is the village. So that was the overview of the bride price. All these themes are there in most of these novels actually. The slave girl is next. The slave girl overview. It is from 1977, the year after Bride Price. It is Emecheta's fourth book dedicated to her editor Margaret Busby. It won the Jock Campbell Award from the New Statesman in 1978. And this novel explores the central vision of female bondage and her underlying metaphor of African womanhood. Sorry, I accidentally made this another point. It should come here. The underlying metaphor of African womanhood as a condition of victimization and servitude. It is a story of women's quest for freedom. The prologue to the novel, The Slave Girl, has a prologue. The prologue describes the founding of Ojebeta's village. Ojebeta is the protagonist. The founding of the fictional village, its growth, the generations before her birth. All these are described by the narrator. When I talk about slave girl, I am also reminded of the African American slave narrative, Incidents in the Life of a Slave Girl by Harriet Jacobs. Slavery of the African Americans is different from slavery in Africa. Slave narratives are a very important genre in itself. That was a passing comment. Now let's come back to The Slave Girl. Set in the early 1900s, the novel The Slave Girl is set in the early 1900s in colonial Nigeria, in the fictional village of Ibuza. Ibuza was the native village of Buchi Emecheta, but here it is not the same Ibuza, it is another fictional village of the same name. The story is narrated by a traditional African storyteller. I told you that narrator talks about Ibuza's society, Ibuza's development from early times up to the 20th century. The African storyteller is telling the story. It is a story of twice born Ogbanje Ojebeta. Ojebeta is the name of Buchi Emecheta's mother also. Ogbanje is a mythological figure, a child who is supposed to bring ill luck. Ojebeta is such a child. Ojebeta's parents, I'll tell you how she came to represent ill luck. Ojebeta's parents, Okwekwu and Omedi Oda, father is Okwekwu and mother is Omedi Oda, they die in an epidemic, leaving her with her two brothers. Her eldest brother is Okoli. Okoli becomes her guardian and sells 7-year-old Ojebeta. She's only 7 years old at that time. She is sold as a slave to pay for Okoli's coming of age ceremony. The sister is sold to pay for his coming of age ceremony. She becomes the slave of Ma Palagada. Ojibeta is now the slave of Ma Palagada. Who is she? She's a trader in Onitsha. In other novels like Joys of Motherhood, you will see traders, women traders. Ma Palagada is a trader. Along with 6 other slaves, she becomes the slave of Ma Palagada. Ma Palagada has 7 slaves. Now, Ma has a son Clifford. At first, he wants to marry her. At first. Clifford at first wants to marry her. But after Ma's death, he wants to make Ojibeta his sister's maid. Ma Palagada dies, and he wants to make Ojibeta his sister's maid now. He changes his mind about marrying her. But Ojibeta attains freedom. She does not want to remain a slave there. After Ma Palagada's death, she attains her freedom, does not return home. She does not go back to her brothers. Instead, she becomes a trader like Ma Palagada. Ojibeta eventually marries Jacob Okonji. She marries. But Jacob cannot pay the bride price to Clifford, because Clifford is now the owner and they should pay the bride price to Clifford actually. But Jacob cannot pay. Then Ojibeta has 2 children. The 3rd time she gets pregnant, she miscarries. And it is interpreted that this is because of the curse of not paying the bride price. The 3rd miscarriage is the ill luck brought by not paying the bride price. That is the common belief. Though slavery is illegal by now, slavery has been declared illegal. But the bride price has to be paid to the slave owner still. That is the common practice. So Jacob finally pays the bride price to Clifford. Now, the major themes and concerns. So, Ojibeta was a slave girl and now she is independent. She does what she wants. She marries the man she wants and lives with him. The social impact of slavery in colonial Africa is a very major theme. African slavery is different from colonial African slavery, is different from African American slavery, I told you. The social impact of slavery in colonial Africa. How it changes the identity of people. How it crushes them. How patriarchy sees women as a possession. A free woman does not mean freedom from the male dominance. There is no escape from the male dominance. There is no escape from patriarchal domination. That is what you see here. Ojibeta has simply exchanged one kind of servitude for another. She is never free. Ogbanje, I told you, is an Igbo mythical element. Ogbanje means a child or evil spirit that plagues the family with misfortune. Oh. If you have an Ogbanje in the family, that means your family will be destroyed. The child would die and come back to the same mother's womb. That is the belief. In Things Fall Apart, Okonkwo's daughter Ezinma is considered an Ogbanje. A related concept is Abiku. Like Ogbanje, there is another concept called Abiku. Abiku is also a child spirit. Ben Okri's novel The Famished Road presents an Abiku. Azaro is the name. Another aspect of Ogbanje is that the child is wandering. It is a wandering child. In this novel, Ojibeta is also a wandering child. Under slavery, she keeps moving from one place to the other. So all these are important elements of the novel, The Slave Girl, which is the second novel of the Africa trilogy by Buchi Emecheta. Now we come to the most important novel, the magnum opus, The Joys of Motherhood. Let me give you an overview. It's a 1979 novel and it's considered a Pan-African classic. It is an urban response to Flora Nwapa's Efuru, published 13 years earlier. There was another Nigerian woman writer, Flora Nwapa. Her Efuru is also a similar novel, where a woman wants children and fertility. And the concept of motherhood is the theme of both these novels, Efuru and the Joys of Motherhood. Don't think it is a celebration of motherhood completely. The title is borrowed from a question in Efuru, responding to Nwapa's question of why women worship the deity, despite her never having achieved the joy of motherhood. There is no joy in motherhood, but still women worship the deity and ask for children. That is the irony. The core idea of the novel is the necessity for a woman to be fertile and above all to give birth to sons. This is a very common concern in traditional Indian novels also. I am reminded of Nectar in a Sieve, which is a very similar novel. The novel challenges mainstream notions of mother, wife and woman. Actually, the Joys of Motherhood is a very ironic presentation of the joys of motherhood. The novel shows that there is no joy in motherhood. I will tell you the story in detail. She shows how joys of motherhood also includes anxiety, obligation and pain. That is what Emecheta shows in this novel. So let us take a detailed look at the story. I am going in detail because this is the most famous of all her novels. Innu Ego is born. The protagonist Innu Ego is the daughter of Nuakocha Agbadi and Ona. Now, who is this Agbadi? Agbadi is the symbol of masculinity. Like our Okonkwo in Things Fall Apart. He's a great orator, a great wrestler with 7 wives. But his heart is given to Ona, his mistress. Ona's father, Obi Umunna, does not want Ona to marry Agbadi. Obi Umunna wants Ona, if ever Ona has sons, it should be Obi Umunna's sons, the father's sons. Obi Umunna, the father, does not want Ona to marry Agbadi. So Ona refuses to marry him. But Ona takes care of Agbadi when Agbadi was wounded in an elephant hunt. And as he is recuperating from the wounds, one night he makes advances to her and he makes love to her. At the end of their love making, Ona screams and wakes all the community, the neighborhood. Everybody comes to know what has happened. At that time itself, Agbadi's first wife, Agunwa, falls ill and dies after some days. After 1 or 2 weeks, she dies. That is considered a very bad omen. In the Igbo tradition, when a woman dies, her personal slave should be killed and buried with her. Agunwa's female slave is killed to be buried with her. This female slave tried to protest and Agbadi tries to help her, but she is killed anyway. But before she dies, she promises Agbadi that she will be born in his family as a legitimate daughter. You know what happens at that time? Itself, it becomes clear that Ona is pregnant because she starts throwing up. She is sick. She was pregnant with Innu Ego. And Innu Ego is born. Once when Innu Ego had some illness, the medicine doctor looked at her, discovered a bump on her head and told everybody that Innu Ego is the slave woman returned. And the slave woman becomes Innu Ego's personal deity or chi. The slave woman returned, she is, it is believed, and her personal deity or chi is the slave woman. All these incidents cast a moral shadow on Innu Ego's life. Innu Ego is cursed by all this. Ona again gets pregnant without getting married to Agbadi. Ona and Agbadi are the parents, remember. Ona dies in her second childbirth. And her dying wish was that Innu Ego should get married and have a fulfilling life. She should not live a life like Ona. Innu Ego should get married and have a fulfilling life. Oh my God, she does have a fulfilling life. She gets not once married but several times married and several children she has. All ultimately causing her only lots of troubles. The first marriage. At 16, like our Buchi Emecheta herself, she is married to Amatoku. Amatoku is her first husband. Inuigo doesn't get pregnant. Amatoku takes another wife. And very soon that wife delivers a boy and she gets pregnant again. And Inuigo is put in charge of the baby. She looks after the baby and she starts giving him her breast to stop him from crying. Very soon her breast produces milk also. And one day Inuigo is caught breastfeeding the boy. Our Amatoku, the husband, beats her. And she's in a bad shape. At that time, her father Agbadi loves Inuigo because Inuigo is the daughter of Ona. Agbadi loved Ona. Are you following me? The father Agbadi takes Inuigo away and he does not want Inuigo to go back to Amatoku. So he arranges her marriage with Neneif Ovulam, another man. She has not even seen him. He lives in Yaba near Lagos. So Neneif Ovulam's brother Ovulam comes and takes Inuigo to Yaba, where she will live with Neneif. Neneif is a fat, undignified, animal-like man. On the very first night she is there, he wants to make love to her like an animal with Ovulam, the brother, sleeping in the same room. After some time, Inuigo gets a dream about her Chi. Chi is the slave woman, remember, personal deity. The Chi is holding out a small boy to her from across the stream. In between there is the stream. So Inuigo cannot get the boy. He is on the other side of the stream. And she gets pregnant soon after. She delivers a baby boy called Ngozi. Even though she could not give Amatoku a child, she has a child with Neneif now, Ngozi. The delivery is done with the help of Cordelia, her friend, neighbor, friend. Cordelia's husband and Neneif are co-workers. Both of them work for a white family, washing their clothes. They are servants. Cordelia's husband is the cook. Neneif is the servant. And Inuigo becomes a petty trader of cigarettes on the street. She starts selling cigarettes and making money. 1 month later, one day, she returns from her trading and finds that Ngozi has died. And she runs and tries to jump off the bridge. This is how the novel actually begins. The first chapter of the novel shows a woman running and trying to jump off the bridge. That is how the novel begins, and the rest of the story abruptly started after that. So now the story picks up from the first chapter. Passers-by stop her from ending her life. And Nwakusor, one Igbo man, finds her fighting with the passers-by. She tells them all that her child has died. Nwakusor knows her. And he takes Inuigo home. Meanwhile, Cordelia and her husband Ubani, I told you they both work. Ubani and Neneif work in the white household or the Mears household. The white couple called Mears has employed Ubani and Neneif. Are you following me? Cordelia and her husband Ubani inform Neneif of Ngozi's death. Ngozi is the dead child of Neneif and Inuigo. You will understand the story, the names, etc. if you write down in your book as you are listening to me. Inuigo is the wife of Neneif. Cordelia and her husband inform Neneif, the father of the baby's death. 3 months later, Inuigo gets another dream of her Chi again. This time a child is there in the dream near the stream. He is dirty and Inuigo takes the boy and cleans him. It is not unreachable. The boy is not unreachable now. Again, after the dream, she becomes pregnant and she gives birth to Oshiaju, who's known as Oshia in the novel. Oshia looks exactly like Nanef. The time is July 1939, even before Buchi Emecheta was born. Second World War started. England is fighting Germany. Because of that, the Mears leave. The white couple for whom Nanef was working, they leave. Nanef whiles away time playing an old guitar that the Mears had left there. All the time he is sitting and playing that guitar. Inigo insults him and forces him to find a job. So he goes to some white travelers and travels with them as their servant. He leaves the family for some time and goes. Inigo and Oshia have to leave their squalid dwelling in the absence of Nanef. The British soldiers come there and they have to leave their dwelling. They are very poor. Oshia is ill and they are helped by neighbors, Cordelia and others. Inigo at that time was pregnant and she gives birth to another boy, Adimabua. Adim is the short name. Adimabua is the second child with Nanef. Now, Nanef returns with money because he has been working. They spend it. Inigo buys some clothes. They send Oshia to school. At that time, Nanef's elder brother, you remember, Ovulum. Ovulum dies and Nanef inherits his wives. He has 3 wives. The eldest wife, Adankwo, is there in Ibuza itself with her children. The youngest wife, Adaku, and her daughter Dambi, small girl, they come to live with Nanef. Adaku and her daughter come to live with Nanef. It is difficult for Inigo because she is not used to sharing her husband. At first, she knows that this is not the man she wanted. She is disillusioned with him, but then she realizes that what she should do is to become a good wife to him. So she accepts even his second wife. And Inigo and Adaku eventually begin to help each other in their poverty. They are struggling, doing trading. Soon Inigo gives birth to twins, Taiwo and Kahinde. They are both girls. And Adaku also gives birth to a baby, but the baby dies. Adaku is very sad. So Inigo now has Oshia, Adim, Taiwo and Kahinde. Will you remember? Once Nanef goes away somewhere and he is caught and forcibly taken away by the army. He is forcibly enlisted in the army. He has to work in the army. He sends a letter from the army to his family. That is how they come to know what happened to him. Inigo travels to her native village Ibuzo to meet her ailing father Agbadi. Remember Agbadi? He is now old and he is overjoyed to see her. And later he dies also. Inigo is living there and she delivers a boy called Namdio, who is believed to be Agbadi returned. That means reincarnation of Agbadi. Namdio. Adaku also delivers a girl at this time. And Adaku is ruling over the family in Lagos. Inigo is in Ibuzo. Ibuza, I think it is. Ibuza. And Adaku is in Lagos. Then the first wife of Ovulum, remember Adankwo, who was living in Ibuza. The first wife Adanko asks Inigo to return to Lagos because Adaku otherwise will usurp her position there. Inigo is the head of the family. But Adaku will usurp that position. So Adanko asks Inigo to return to Lagos. Are you following? She is now living in Ibuza. Now, in Lagos, Inigo realizes that Adaku has become a successful merchant in the market. There was some commercial space in front of her house, which was all taken by neighbors now. Adaku did not care for it. She has become successful in the market. And she has become powerful at home. She is ruling over everybody. and Innu Ego is doing back-breaking work back in Lagos. One day, Innu Ego and Adaku fight. During the fight, the men interfere, and Adaku is humiliated when Nwakusor and other men support Innu Ego. Adaku is humiliated. She leaves the household, becomes a prostitute to support her daughters. When the family does not support a woman anymore, she has to become a prostitute, no other choice. That is how it is. So, Adaku leaves. Innu Ego struggles through the war. The Second World War is raging. So much poverty. Innu Ego struggles. Finally, one day Naneif returns. The war ended. A year after that only Naneif returned because he was recovering from some water snake bite or something. He is a very casual, irresponsible man. He returns a year after the war ends and he goes to Ibuza to be with Adankuo, and from there he buys a young wife, Okpo. Okpo is only 16 years old. Naneif returns home to Lagos with a young wife, Okpo. That time the son Oshia is sent to boarding school and the second son Adimbua is jealous. But the parents tell Adimbua that Oshia will get a job and then pay for Adimba's education. But what does Oshia do? Oshia gets a scholarship to go to the US and leaves the family. Doesn't take care of Adimbua. Meanwhile, Innu Ego gives birth to a second set of twins. Remember, she had a first set of twins. Kehinde and what was the name? Tavo. Oh, I keep forgetting. We'll come across the name again. I think. No, we won't. You can go back and check. I hope you have written down. Most names I remember, but that girl's name, I will come across her name again because she will get married soon. So the second set of twins is Obiageli and Malachi. Instead of working to help the family, Oshia goes to the US on a scholarship. Eventually, Adimbua also goes to Canada. Meanwhile, Adimbua and Okpo had become great friends. The wife. And Adimbua is a teenager. He goes to Canada now. Taiwo and Kehinde were the first set of twin girls. 15-year-old Taiwo is married off. Kehinde does not give in to marriage. Instead, she runs away with a butcher's son whom she loved. Naneif is very angry. He goes to the butcher's house with a cutlass and hurts someone there. Naneif was angry with Oshia also for not working and bringing home money. Now Naneif goes and cuts somebody in the butcher's house. Naneif is arrested and sentenced to 5 years in prison. But everything is corrupt there. The lawyer tells our Innu Ego that even though he has got 5 years sentence, he will be released after 3 months, after which he can go into hiding in Ibuza. How corrupt it is. Innu Ego now leaves Lagos with her daughters, Malachi, and she goes to Ibuza and she never hears from Oshia or Adim again. Her sons never write back to her. She is growing old now. Her senses are failing. One day she dies on the roadside. Then her children realize her importance and give her a grand funeral. And even a shrine is built for her. You will think, where is the criticism of motherhood? This is a typical story, realistic story. Now the rebellion comes. When people pray to the deity Innu Ego for fertility, she never grants them their wish. That is the rebellion. Innu Ego rebels after death. Always she was independent. Now, when people want children, she will never grant them that wish. Wonderful, isn't it? Major themes and concerns in the novel. The importance of love and children in a family. That's a very important theme. Children are important. There are joys in motherhood also. And what is female identity? How can you assert it? Women are the productive, enterprising, resilient people. Compare them with people like Nanaif. Women are dependable, productive, fertile in every way, enterprising, resilient. Fertility of the soil, fertility of women, in a metaphoric sense, fertility. Women are also material possession. They are the people who make money, bring money. Nanaif is lazy, Innu is the enterprising woman. The unequal man-woman relationship in patriarchy, like you saw in other novels. Masculinity and femininity. What do you mean by masculinity? This is a very common theme in many African novels, like Things Fall Apart also. What is femininity? Definitions of masculinity and femininity. Suffering and trauma. Old generation versus new generation. Country versus city. These appear in this novel also. I found a painting by an African woman, African artist, Obiora Ekinozi, motherhood painting. Beautiful, isn't it? So that is the overview of the joys of motherhood. We have come to the end of the major novels. Now I have to talk to you about the minor novels. Look at the names of the major novels again.